We're vibing, we're chilling, we're cool, it's good. Hi, hello, my name is Sarah, and today we're gonna be talking about the Hunger Games. So I know you're asking, Sarah, where is your Mockingjay pin? And it's right here, but I couldn't figure out where to put it, because I don't know where pins go. There? No, that's like weird though. Is it? Nope, no, I don't, it's like low. I feel like it's like, okay, but my hair's there. Maybe here? I feel like that's where it goes. I'm just not gonna wear it. I'm just not gonna wear it, okay. I filmed this video twice and I really don't want to do it again, so I'm really hoping this time it works out. Yay, okay, let's go. So, The Hunger Games. I reread them and I have some thoughts. As you can see, I put my hair in like a Katniss inspired braid. So, yeah. Like probably everyone on the internet, I read The Hunger Games when it first came out and saw the movies when they first came out. I personally really enjoyed them, loved it, one of my favorite series. My first dystopian was The Hunger Games, so I vibed with it real hard. I was Team PETA all the way. Did not like Gale. Well, like I didn't have a problem with him, but like Team PETA, oh yes, they are in love. Oh my goodness. I wanted to reread the series to see if it was actually good or if it was just 13-year-old Sarah thinking that it was good when it really wasn't good, because my taste back then was like not the best. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. Not the best. So let's just start off. Let's just talk for like a hot second about the reason why everyone hates this. There's a lot of hate surrounding these books. As I reread them, I kind of disagreed, and I'll get into that in a hot second. Okay, so first, obviously, we have The Hunger Games, the book that started it all. The Hunger Games was like the first big teen dystopian. Divergent, all the other dystopians came after The Hunger Games, so even though a lot of the elements that are presented in these books are now super cliche and super overdone, and I absolutely cannot stand reading them. Because this was the first, it kind of started the cliche, and I think you have to give it credit for that. So while the love triangles and the teen girl leading a rebellion, overthrowing the government, all those tropes are certainly here, I don't mind them in the way that I do in other books, because this is kind of, in my mind, what started those tropes in the YA genre. This book is very, very fast-paced. It is not that long. As you can see, it's pretty short. It's only 374 pages. That's not very long for a dystopian. The writing is in first person, which I had forgotten, and I didn't really have a problem with it, but it was just a little hard for me to get into it because I had just come off of reading A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. In that, the writing is third person and it shifts, like every chapter is a different character. I was reading that book for so long. Coming into this, first person writing kind of like shocked me. We had some solid world building in here that I really appreciated. There were a lot of things that drew me in emotionally that I did not expect to, specifically Rue. I've read these books so many times and I've seen the movie so many times, I really didn't think Rue was gonna get to me, and it most certainly did. Personally, I tend to fall into these traps where I read the book and then I watch the movie, but I retain the details from the movie more. And I don't know if it's because the movie is more recent in my head or if it's a visual thing. I'm not really sure what it is. In the movie, the tributes are portrayed differently than they are in the books, and that really just boils down to the fact that the book is from Katniss's point of view, so we get a lot of her internal dialogue about the other tributes, while the movie is not. We don't get to see her thoughts, read her thoughts. So I think a strength of the book is definitely that we get to see how she views the other tributes. For example, Foxface, the girl from District 5, I think it was. Katniss is always talking about how she is so brilliant, and this girl is smart, and she's got an amazing brain. She is cunning, she is sly, just so intelligent, and we really get to see that in here. We don't really get to see it in the movie. But yeah, 4 stars. I enjoyed it. I read it in a day. Again, very fast paced. That's probably my only criticism. I wish it would have gone a little slower, but that might have just been me because I read it so fast. Okay, next we have Catching Fire. Every single time I read it, this has always been my favorite, and I think that's because we get the most tension in this book. I read this in a day and I legitimately could not put it down. Okay, I used to do this all the time, specifically in middle school and freshman year, and I don't think I have done this since then, but I did it with this book. So what I would do is I would have the book open under my desk at school, and I would be sitting and like reading while my teacher was like doing whatever, because I just couldn't get enough of the story. Like, you know how kids put their phones under the desk and they look at them? I had the book and I was like, I'm the kind of person, when I read things that are really dramatic and I'm very invested in the story, I react to them. So I was sitting there with my desk and I was like, I've read this before. Like, I've read this so many times. I've seen the movie so many times. It's not like I don't know what happened. The reason that I love this book, the reason that I've always loved this book, and the reason why this book, once again, was my favorite out of the three is because I love the subtleties that are in this. They are so, so well done. This book is the most character driven out of all of them. There are these amazing, small, and intimate scenes within this book that really drew me in and made it super special. Some of my favorite were when President Snow visits Katniss in her house and basically says, I know you're not in love with Peeta and you have to convince me that you're in love with him or I'm gonna kill every single person you love. Obviously this is a paradox for Katniss because at this point in the book she doesn't love Peeta, so she has to pretend that she loves him to get President Snow to believe that she loves him. If she really doesn't love him and is pretending, President Snow knows she's pretending, but if Katniss actually does start to love him, President Snow's gonna think that she only loved Peeta because he told her to. The scene is so good because one, it's our first real action between Katniss and Snow, which I love. Snow is such a snake and I hate him so much and he's literally awful and he's stanky as hell, but I love it. I love them together because it's just electric. They just hate each other so much and it is phenomenal to read. There are also all these scenes where Katniss and Peeta are sleeping together on the train, like sleeping in the same bed. I really enjoyed those. I think they're really sweet. Having reread the books and having reread them as someone who is definitely older and not 13, 12 years old. I actually think I first read the series when I was 9 because I remember being in like 4th grade the first time I read them. Rereading them like 10-ish years after, I definitely have a different perspective on the whole romance aspect. I think when I was younger I was just shipping them so hard because like that's what younger kids do. Like I think we all did. Now the way I see it, these are two people who kind of connected when they were younger but nothing was ever really gonna come of it and it wasn't a romantic connection. It was just like a very human connection. Obviously he saved her from starving. They're thrown into this horrible, horrible situation and they kind of cling to each other and through that they find this symbiosis with each other and this strength that they draw from each other. They're polar opposites in so many ways. I think it's great because they balance each other out, but the idea that's reinforced in all 3 books that I don't know why I never caught when I was younger, I just don't think I understood the nuances of it, was that it's not a love story in the way that it's a romantic love story. It's just the kind of love where they can't really be without each other because they've been through so much together, and the fact that the romance and the actual like passionate love, the eros love, if we want to use like the Greek term, we love literature student, grows out of that, but not even until after all the events in the books are done. I just think that that's everything. Like that is what I love to see because that's complicated and it's different. Okay, now that I've just psychoanalyzed their entire relationship, another scene I really like when Katniss and Peeta watch Haymitch winning the first games. It's not a scene we get to see in the movie and it makes me so upset. When he had his games, he was like the top competitor. He was the guy to beat and I love seeing him like that because you realize like this guy is crazy smart. If you don't remember, Haymitch was the contestant in the second quarter crawl, so that's like the 50th year because like, you know, of course, but he won his game by going up to the force field, throwing an axe, having it bounce off and like smashing into the forehead of the other last contestant. And then if you remember, that's how they get the idea for the force field stuff. It's like a whole thing. Literally so good. Love that scene. I also really like the scene after Gale gets whipped, specifically with Prim and Katniss's mother, because you really get to see Prim come into her own. I think Prim is a huge, 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 huge part of all these books. As we know, she's kind of the catalyst for everything that happens. But we see her go from this little girl who's afraid and really can't take care of herself in the first book to someone who is not afraid, who's brave, who's certain. But we just see her becoming this amazing, confident, strong woman.
Talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular.
I love that scene because of her. I loved it. There's this really amazing scene right before the end of the book, right before the big climax. Katniss and Peeta sitting on the beach. It's when he gives her the pearl that he found kind of like in the oyster in the water, and they're sitting and they're talking, but it's this amazing moment because obviously they both know the cameras are on them, but Peeta starts talking to her and talking about how much he cares for her and how much he wants to protect her and how much he loves her. And even though they know the cameras are on them, it's not for the cameras, and she's like, I know that because he doesn't mention the baby because they're pretending she's pregnant. I just think it's really, really A+. great scene. It's one of the first times we get to see Katniss really let her guard down with him. I think it's just a beautiful scene, especially when you consider all the things that happen next, because it's the first time we really get to see Katniss reciprocating the emotion for Peeta, and then we know Peeta gets brainwashed in Mockingjay. Oh. In this book, I love seeing Prim come into her own. This is character development. That is what we call character development. Katniss also really finds her voice in this book. The writing definitely flows a lot better in this one. The pacing is a lot better. It's still short. It's not like a long book. None of these books are very long, but it says what it needs to, and it doesn't do too much, but it doesn't leave anything out. The dialogue, it really shows an understanding of all of her characters. Like, you can tell that Suzanne Collins clearly plotted out all of her characters. They're very well developed. The writing in this book, I think by far is the best writing in all of the books. The last thing I want to hit on with this book, I know I've been talking about it for a while, is the portrayal of PTSD. As we know, PTSD is a huge part of this series. All the victors of the games seem to have some form of trauma and PTSD, and that is completely understandable, and like, yeah, who wouldn't, you know? In my opinion, the way that Suzanne Collins portrayed the PTSD in this book is very true to what the experience of dealing with PTSD looks like. PTSD is different for everyone, obviously, we know this. I think it was interesting how she showed that it is different for everyone. Specifically, there's this scene where Katniss and Peeta are in one of the train cars, and Peeta is showing Katniss these paintings that he's been doing of events that happened in the game to kind of help him through his trauma. And Katniss looks at them, and Peeta's like, do you like them? And Katniss is like, I hate them. But she knows that's his way of grieving and getting through the trauma that they experienced, and she says, I understand why you have to make these, so I love them for your sake, but I hate them for mine. And the way that she deals with grieving and the way that she deals with the trauma of having gone through that experience is just so different to Peeta's. She kind of puts all her energy into her family and providing for them. I loved the way that it was portrayed in this book, and I just thought it was great. So I give this one a 4.5 out of 5. Really love this one. A+, great. Okay, let's talk about Mockingjay, because this is where I'm gonna get a little ranty, but it's fine. It's totally fine. Let's talk about Prim. One of my favorite things about this book was Prim. Prim is a woman in this book. Prim is independent. She has grown up. She has developed. I love her character development throughout all three. We really get to see Prim shine in this book, which makes her death heartbreaking. Peeta's hijacking, I kind of forgot that it happened. Like, I vaguely remembered it, so when it did happen, I was like, oh, okay. And my biggest problem with it was they made this whole big thing about Peeta being so different, and then very quickly he was back to our regular Peeta, or like a version of our regular Peeta. I just didn't really like how fast it was, but I know that it was probably because the book is tiny. I also read this one in a day, so it's also probably one of those things where if I had spaced out when I read it, it would have felt more natural, but because I read this so fast, it felt a little rushed. My other thing with the hijacking was he's not really back to Peeta. They talk about how he's different, and because of the tracker venom, he has all these extra problems and these extra thoughts. He can't determine what's real and not real because of it, whatever. He's clearly a different person. Everyone says he is. Through his actions and through his dialogue, we can see that he is, and I would have liked to get to know who this new Peeta is. This could have been 2 books, and I know that is a popular opinion. This just felt very rushed in a lot of different ways. If it was 2, I think a lot more things could have been developed a lot better. I really enjoyed the relationship between Katniss and Haymitch. It felt very real and organic in this book. They're obviously very broken people. I wrote in my notes, Snow chokes on blood and dies LMAO snake. Bro, he is a snake. Let me tell you, I think it's funny that I was saying Snow can choke this entire time and that he does, like, and he dies. That just makes me laugh. Plutarch can also choke because he's an asshole. I didn't really have a problem with him the first time I read the series. I do now. He's awful. He's one of the worst characters. Gale and Katniss, good luck in District 2, buddy. If you don't remember, Gale designs the bomb that the rebels drop on Prim, and Katniss is like, you killed my sister, and Gale's like, Gale in this book, he's very eager to be a martyr. It's kind of the moment where Katniss starts to lose respect for him. I liked the pro pose. I liked it this time because you can really see how Katniss is totally being used as a prop. She really has no say in how they're portraying her and that they're just using her as propaganda and her image. Like, she agrees to it and that's kind of it. I just think it's very true to the media and pop culture and politics in general in real life. Oftentimes people, especially women, get used as a prop for political gains. It's just something that historically I've noticed. Let's talk about the climax because I have some issues with it. The climax, first of all, is basically an anticlimax, which I just feel like these books are really good and we've been building to this for a while, and then Prim dies, Katniss blacks out, nothing else happens. There's a lot of elements in this book that I would have really have liked to see, such as breaking Peeta out of the Capitol or seeing what happens after Prim dies with the taking of the Capitol. I just didn't get to see it. We don't get to see it at all, which is because of the limits of first person point of view. You know, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Effie is a footnote throughout the entire book, but we won't talk about that. I think it makes no sense, but like, we're not gonna talk about it. At the end of the book, if you don't remember, President Coin is basically like, to punish the Capitol and to show them that we are now ruling, we're the boss, we're gonna have a ceremonial Hunger Games where all the children from the Capitol are gonna get reaped. It's gonna be one last Hunger Games and we're gonna do the Hunger Games. The victors that are currently still there, so it's like Joanna and Haymitch and Peeta and Katniss, and I think that's it. They have the deciding vote on if this is happening or not. First of all, that is sick. Like, it's disgusting. The moment is good because it shows you how much of a snake Coin is. We knew she was awful. This just shows you how terrible she is. However, I have issues with the scene because Katniss votes in favor of these games and I just don't understand why. I understand Haymitch. I understand Haymitch voting yes. Peeta votes no. Joanna votes no. I get that. That goes with all their characters, those three decisions. The idea that is put forward in the book is that she's so mad about the death of Prim that she's like looking to take it out on all the other kids because the death of her sister, who was obviously a young woman, she was like what, 13, 14 when she died? She's a kid. She's still a kid. But it literally goes against every single one of Katniss's beliefs. Throughout the books, Katniss has always been the protector of the children. She protected Prim. She protected Rue. Every child she saw, she just kind of felt a personal attachment to. And I don't know if Suzanne Collins was trying to be like, oh, well, she lost her sister, so she lost that, or she's in so much grief that she just doesn't care anymore. I think you could argue that Katniss has always had like a really bad temperament, and this is just another example of that, but at the same time, her morals have always kind of guided her temperament, and this doesn't add up. Does not add up. My favorite thing about this book was the hanging tree. I forgot about the hanging tree and the influence it had. I kind of just remember that one scene from the movie where they're all like singing while they're mining, or maybe they're not mining, maybe they're like doing the revolution. I don't even remember. I watched this movie so long ago. The song is beautiful. They really delve into the meaning of the song and the fact that first it sounds like a lover asking his other lover to just meet somewhere so they could run away, but then later you realize it's from the perspective of the person who was hanged. I just got chills. So good. One of the best moments of the whole series. Every time they bring it up, it just gives me chills. It's one of those things that like you read it and you think you know what it's about until you get to that last verse and it all inverts and you're like, what is happening? Like, I loved that. I loved that. I really did cry at the end of this, which is so stupid because I've read it so many times and I'm not a particularly emotional person. I only really cry at books when I'm really, really, really invested. And I didn't really feel that invested, but I guess I was because I was crying. Like, what? That doesn't happen. I've read these 4 times. I've watched all the movies. I went to the little premiere of the last 2, maybe Catching Fire. I don't remember. I was crying. Like, Suzanne Collins, let me know. Girl, you had me crying. Okay, so I gave this a 4. It's definitely not a 3. Like, I don't think it's at a level to be a 3. It's definitely not a 5. So I think this is a 4 out of 5 stars. In my mind, it's like maybe a 3.5. Goodreads does not allow a 3.5, so I just gave it a 4. I'm not really gonna go into the whole President Coin shooting President Coin thing because honestly, I don't even care to. I was just like, whatever. Like, doesn't even matter. I knew it was gonna happen. So overall, I enjoyed. I had a really good time. Took me 3 days. I did a book a day. I gotta say, they still hold up. They really do. Like I said earlier, they invented the cliche and you gotta give them credit. I definitely will not be rereading this series for a long time just because I've read it so many times and there's other things I want to read. I just realized I forgot to mention Finnick in like this entire video. Don't come at me. I don't know. I like that he's friends with Katniss and Mockingjay. I think in Catching Fire he's chilling. I like his friendship with Joanna. Was sad when he died, but was not really affected when he died. Alright, so thank you so much for watching. I would just like to say that I'm someone who doesn't really read dystopians anymore or sci-fi anymore. I'm really over it at this point. There's just so many better things to read, but I loved these and there's a reason for that. So yeah. Okay, thanks. Subscribe and comment and cool. Thanks. My hand hurts from holding those up. Oh my gosh. My hands are so